We started a part 1, part 2, and I know Morty was commenting on speaking on dads and to dads. We spoke on Keepers of Springs to our ladies when it was Mother's Day. And since we're gone Father's Day, I did this as a Father's Day message in Jamaica, and I also did it part 1, part 2 for Father's Day message here for Father's Day month. And in our progress of things, we want to share some things. That as a father is well known as a person who growls when he feels good and laughs when he's scared half to death. And they asked me what I was going to preach when I gave them this sermon title. Kind of threw it for a little bit. They didn't know quite what to do with me with it, but we had fun with it. Somebody sent me on the internet a bunch of pictures about men babysitting, and I incorporated in this whole series, and some of it in review I want to share with you. You know, because the Bible says husbands are to love their wives and be not embittered. Children are to be obedient to their parents, for that's well-pleasing. And fathers, don't exasperate or drive your children to wrath, so that they will not lose heart. Now, this is when men babysit. You know, they got a Harley, and they might as well toss the kids in both saddlebags. You notice no helmets, no protection. And Lorelei Ellis told me that all a helmet does is a brain bucket, that if you ever get in a motorcycle wreck and you slap against the asphalt, the helmet at least contains the brains within the helmet. You're dead anyway. You know, you're dead anyway. So whether you got a helmet or don't have a helmet. So don't worry about these two babies enjoying their daddy's babysitting. Of course, we learned last time that we're to give home top priority, and here's two dads very attentive to their children. And of course, this is one who was fulfilling his parental duties while Mama was away doing chores and shopping. Daddy's right in the crib, minding the store, taking care of the baby. And then, of course, we were setting aside time for our family, and this is the importance of making our home a happy home, and becoming a good listener, and be a good example for our children, and teach our children responsibility.
Right all over.
Yeah, while Dad sleeps, the magic marker is kind of having a little bit of going for it. And then, of course, this looks like Glenn at the ball game Monday night. And if he falls asleep, some little tyke's going to come up, grandkid, or great-grandkid's going to come up there and going to mark him permanently to keep the family strong. And this was Nathan Stewart, one of our preachers, just graduated from the seminary. He married here just this last summer, and new joy. I mean, the boy was, what, 30 years old? 46. So I guess maybe my son Nathan still has hope.
He looks so
46 is first for he's been calling my wife Mom, I guess, because he's the age of our kid. But this was he and his bride there at the Top Hill Church. Top Hill's where Colin Powell's from, at least his family's from. Well, we're going to continue what we began last time, and in the 9th point, normally you're supposed to have 3 main divisions, Marvin, and I had 18. And I don't think you want to hear about dads, ladies, since we've got an abundance of ladies. I don't think the ladies want to hear about, maybe they do, maybe they want me to get on the men for the next 18 weeks, you know, of whatever. But part of being a good dad, being a parent, is making dining together an interesting, happy occasion, not criticizing. One of the biggest griefs that ever happened in the family of Madeleine Murray O'Hara, the mother of the atheistic movement here in the United States, was the cruel and bitter putting down she did on her children. Not only calling them stupid and idiots and all the other things, but she would swear one side and down the other. Her bitter attitude and her bitter tongue got so irritating, and every meal was the same old irritating. It probably upset everybody's digestion, just arguing and bickering at the kitchen table, that her dad says, I'm through. I'm just done with it. From here on out, I will never eat a meal at this table with this family again. So he went over in the kitchen and ate his meal privately, where he had some peace and quiet. But our dinner doesn't need to be dining together as a bickering and an unhappy occasion and a critical occasion. I remember we would have our devotions at our supper meal. It worked out best for our family. And I think I shared with you before that our preacher had me over as he was training me as a young preacher boy at 19 years, 18 years old, 19 years old. I spent the summer with Bill Paul. And he taught me how to do various things. Run a mimeograph machine, high-tech stuff. How to baptize, how to do funerals, and how to do newsletters, and some of the practical things of ministry. But I remember going over to his house for supper, and Beth had this big pile of food on the table, and he started the devotion at the beginning of the meal. And he went on and on and on and on. You guessed it, Clarice. The dinner just got colder and colder and colder and colder. And so there's one thing I learned from my preacher. And I learned something from that. I learned to have devotions with my family. Guess when we had our devotions? After, that makes sense. During dessert, while the ice cream's melting anyway, that's the worst thing that can happen. And we didn't have a long lengthy. We had a shorter devotion. We spent maybe 5 minutes or whatever with our devotion. Maybe 10 if we had a children's story to tell. And then we pulled out the Happy Hollister book, and we'd read the Happy Hollisters. They're kind of like a little bit better, I thought, than the Bobley twins. Not as good as the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew, though. Sharon and Sharon. You probably remember the Nancy Drew. I grew up in Frank and Joe Hardy. But the Happy Hollisters were a happy family, and they were building a tree house. And when you're reading a story to your kids, Dad, let's build a tree house. So next thing we know, we built a tree house out back behind the parsonage. And I built it so it'd hold my weight. And I knew if it'd hold my weight, it'd hold their weight. And my kids, Beth would get up there in that tree house and read. That was her getaway place. And we had this old hermit that come in and fill up his water jugs over at the church building. And she'd be up safe in the tree, and he'd be down because he was too hermity to climb a tree, up the tree house. So she was safe from the hermit, but that was her hangout place. One neighbor boy broke an arm trying to shortcut on the way down. Instead of taking the steps, he decided to break his arm, and I remember his bone was this way and his arm was the other way. But make dining together an interesting, happy occasion, not a criticizing occasion. Another is train children in courtesy and good table manners and avoid arguments and petty bickering. Now, table manners got to begin somewhere. And because the kids are going to be eating someplace else, and whenever we ate out at the church members' houses, we told the children that they had to eat everything that they were served, whether they liked it, whether they didn't, and didn't bellyache. Yeah, I didn't like that. You can imagine the preacher's kid. You got 3 kids, and all 3 kids, and you're trying to impress this new member of the family. Preacher, come on over to our house. We're going to feed you and all that. And can you imagine all 3 kids? Hey, I don't like that. That would really be a big hit. So they knew if they ever did something like that, they'd get not what they say a light spanking. They get what they said in Jamaica, a hard beating. And they knew it, so they were well behaved, and they were well enough behaved that we could go on family Bible studies with other couples and families, and all 3 of the children were well enough behaved that they knew they could come in and read their books or do their colors or whatever they're going to do, and they're going to sit there and behave themselves throughout the whole time. They're so well behaved, my wife took the 4-year-old to college with her when she was taking Greek, when I was teaching Greek in the Bible Institute. And he got going. Instead of playing with his colors and his coloring books, he decided to start writing down what Daddy was writing on the blackboard. So he went to kindergarten the next year, and the kindergarten teacher, now remind you, this is Pennsylvania coal mining territory. We got a bunch of coal mining, tobacco chewing and spitting, coal mining territory, if you know what I mean by coal mining territory. And so the teacher, first day of school, asked the children, do any of you know your numbers? Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. A lot of them knew how to count to 10. That's good. Now, do any of you children, now Nathan, do you know your alphabet? And he says, yes, ma'am. He was taught very proper. You say, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir. And she says, can you say the alphabet? And he says, yes, ma'am. Which one?
Oh,
She says, what do you mean by which one? You want them in the English or you want them in the weak? So that night when Sandy went to pick up the kids at the kindergarten, the teacher kept, Mrs. Geringswald, may I ask you a personal question about Nathan? I noticed his home life is a little bit different than the normal home life we have. Where in the world did he ever learn Greek? She said, oh, he's already been to college. And we laugh about that, but we've got two 13, 14-year-old boys. Bob Russell, who preached at a 17,000-member church in Kentucky, he says one thing he regretted, he never took 14-year-old boys under his wing and taught a ministry. That's one thing he regretted. That congregation today runs between 20 and 30,000, but he regretted, and we've got two Jamaica boys right now that are 12, 13, 14 that we're grooming in the college classroom. One of the boys at age 12 made a 98% on the church history exam among the college students.
wow.
And he got preaching. We had a preacher from Kentucky Christian College trained. He didn't want to give the boy credit for it, but I called the professor back. He had a PhD, and sometimes these guys get their PhDs and they're kind of getting a little stuffy. He didn't want to give this 13-year-old boy credit for the class. He won Preacher Boy contest at youth camp as the best preacher in camp. You know, so I said, he's the award-winning, he took the trophy. So we see him back in college class in August, and then of course there's Rashawn Scott. And he'll do a great job unless mom or daddy are in the room. Mom and daddy in the room, he clams right up. When mom and daddy aren't in the room, he opens right up. I guess he figures he's got a lot of talent, but if his daddy knew what kind of talent he'd have him doing more than he's doing. So that's that. But there is the idea of training your children in courtesy and avoid arguments and petty bickering. The other area is to strive to develop every child's personality. You notice the kids got lots of personality. Yeah.
Oh, that's too
Had the cat that gets the couch.
Yes.
Yeah, the cat and the kid. And of course, like I said, this is when you leave, ladies, when you leave dad home or grandpa home to babysit the great grandkids. Now you can imagine this is Glenn Koppel, and we won't say which one of the grandkids have their fanny in the air, but this is Glenn Koppel waiting for mom and grandma to come home to change the diaper. If that's the way that works.
Guilty as charged.
This is Clevon Dixon's daughter. You talk about developing personality. This young lady's got personality. You can tell she's got personality. This was their junior high school graduation, and she's one sweetheart, a real sharp kid. Clevon is one of our graduates from the Jamaica Bible Seminary that went to Florida Christian College before it became Johnson University and got his degree in counseling. He earned his diploma in Bible and preaching at the seminary, and then he went on down to the accredited college. The neat thing, whenever we transferred his transcript, remember we are a non-accredited Bible institute in Jamaica. And here, one of our students was transferring his transcript from a non-accredited college to an accredited college. And they went through all the Bible he had gotten in the 5 years he was with us, and they said, we can only transfer so many credits, you got too much Bible.
wow.
Now, if we can get criticized for running a Bible seminary where our students leave after 5 years with too much Bible from the accredited colleges, I think we're doing a pretty fair job, don't you think, Brother Morty? And yet what we give those students in 5 years is only 1/3 what me and Cassandra received in Iowa when we went to Bible college. It's just 1/3. And so this is showing the transition from the days when Bible colleges were Bible colleges and didn't worry about accreditation to the Bible colleges today that changed the name from Bible college to university to Point. You know, they go from Christian college to Point University. Goes from Southeastern Bible College to Southeastern University, or just Southeastern. You know, they changed the name, and somehow Christian and Bible, they don't want to offend the Arabs when they transfer credits to Europe. I says, huh? That's another sermon for another day. I'm not going there. Understand the meaning of true discipline. I remember when Usain Bolt took first and another Jamaican took second, another Jamaican took third, and the whole nation of Jamaica rocked and rolled, jumped up and down. Now we were having college class during the time that there was first, second, third place, and I know to pick my battles. And so all of a sudden it says, okay guys, it's about 10 minutes till the finals there at the Olympics, and so we're going to stop class here. We had to get the TV, we had this flat screen, we had set up for a PowerPoint, and so we got it all hooked up to the station, we got him going, and we ran. They went 1, 2, 3, yay! And then they ran, they did a rerun, yay! And they did another rerun, yay! And they did another rerun. And after 5 reruns, it says, okay guys, is that your system? No, yay! And then finally, after about 5 or 6 reruns of seeing number 1, 2, and 3 win that race, we were able to cut her down and get back to college class again. But understand the true meaning of discipline. This man, the only way, he beats records. And you know whose records he beats? His own. Nobody else can even hold a candle to him, he's so fast. And these guys walking up and running up and down. One of our professors, you talk about discipline, his name was Bob Milliken. It was the Nebraska Christian College. Bob was just a little wiry guy, about 4 years younger than me. And Bob just got back climbing the Himalayas. I'm serious. Wow. Climbed the Matterhorn. I mean, he's a mountain climber. He's a little guy, about the size of Morty, but wiry as all get out. He's Morty's size, but all wiry. I mean, and so he says, I want to do some running. He's got the discipline of running. And says, it's not safe for you to leave the camp compound and go running. But then one of the Jamaica boys, Jason, the boy that was baptized with, he says, I'll run with you. And they ran. And you know how many miles they run every morning? 45 minutes, about 4 or 5 miles. And Jason never ran long distance before. And as they got home, back toward the college building, the school building, Jason would sprint out ahead of him just to show that he's a young, spry a young buck that can still run faster than the old man. But the boy didn't know he had the ability to run a 5-mile marathon, but he did. He always was a short sprinter. But here they are. But that takes discipline. The guys that are champions in all sports, skating and track and all, they don't have the dates with the girls every Friday night. They don't sit down and watch hours and hours and hours of TV every night. They don't go out to the ball game on Monday night. It's a steady discipline of so many hours. They've got to just discipline. They're talking to a musician, and the man says, I practice my music 6 hours a day. Wow. And he's a concert pianist. And he says, if I miss a day, I notice it. If I miss 2 days, my audience notices it. Wow. And so these guys are just a straight discipline of music. They live and die music. Same thing with young girls in gymnastics and people that are figure skaters and all that. It is a discipline. That's all they do is eat, drink, and sleep. All that. And we've had people say, boy, I wish I could learn the Bible, know the Bible as much as, but it takes a discipline of studying and memorizing and reading the Scripture. To read the Bible all the way through, 3.5 chapters a day, and you can read the entire Bible through. Start with the New Testament, with Matthew. You might skip through some of those genealogies for the names you can't pronounce, but we were discussing that this morning. But understand that that is a spiritual discipline. Understand the true meaning of discipline. The other is nurture their spiritual life.
Dog and the boy.
Oh yes. I don't know who's got more faith than the boy or the dog. When we were in Jamaica, this was over at Maca Tree. Winston, one of the elders, that was our foreman, we were putting in some ceiling boards, some real thin Luan 4x8 sheets of wallboard. Same we'd have for his wood wallboard, but they're using it for ceiling tile. And Winston was overseeing that particular and also doing some concrete work. But he had this old coon dog, and that dog would lay there at the steps of the side door of the church. Every time Master and Mama were there at the church worship, the faithful dog was there on the porch. Good old faithful. What was his name?
Scruff.
Scruff. His name was Scruff. And while I was preaching this sermon, you know, and I says, I wish we could have the members of this church as faithful as old Scruff. You know, you wish you would. You hate to say that dog is more faithful than most average church members, you know, as far as faithful, but that dog was there. Good old faithful dog, Scruff. In Pennsylvania, Norman Harvey Brundage had their dog, and one of our college students worked down at the restaurant, and he always brings steak bones back with him when he came home at 10 or 11 o'clock at night. And what was the name of that dog? Tippy. Yeah, Tippy. He's a mutt. And he'd be waiting on the porch for Byron to come home with that bag full of steak bones left over from where he was waitering at the restaurant there at that Point Marion restaurant. And he was another faithful dog, always on the doorstep, because Norman and Harvey were there always at the church. Sad thing is somebody poisoned the dog and he died. And you know, he was a good old dog. Come on, he felt like poisoning the owner instead of poisoning the dog. But there is an importance in nurturing our children's spiritual life. This is at Richmond Park. We're going to be doing a vacation Bible school at this church. It's a small congregation. It was running about 40, and then the mines moved completely out. They closed down the aluminum bauxite mines, and the town became a ghost town. And the church went down to maybe 15 people, 18 people. And they started this kids group. And just here in the last month or so, these kids started coming to this little church that they're worried about even keeping the doors open or closed. And it's about 7 miles to the Moco Church, where they got the newer building they're building. Alan Detweiler was building with his team, Caribbean Construction, built a bigger building. We didn't know, do we close this church down and merge that church with the other church, or try to keep this alive? And Winston Scott says, Brother Richard, you need to bring your team. Sister Sandy, bring a team and see if we can revive this church. And Winston, I was preaching there at that church 4 or 5 months ago, and one of the guys that Winston baptized during Sunday school, and I preached that Sunday morning. He's been in the college session now the last 2 sessions. And so here we're training one of their future leaders in their congregation at the college. And then all these kids, they said, plan on at least 25 kids for Vacation Bible School. And you know, for a small church, and what happens anytime an American mission team comes down, they want to do the big VBSs where they have 100, 150 kids. And they can always come back with all these pictures of, oh, look at these 150 kids we got to work with. And the big churches get all the attention. These little churches are forgotten. And so we're taking time out to spend a little time with a smaller church and see if we can revive its future with the next generation and revive it in this town that's starting to make a small comeback after the mines closed. But there's the idea of nurturing the spiritual life, and Sunday school and junior worship as a way to nurture spirituality. Deuteronomy 6:6 tells us this, these words which I am commanding you today shall be on your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your sons. You shall talk with them as you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up, and you shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be frontlets to your forehead. In Deuteronomy, this is some important words and probably the pivotal passage of Scripture to the Jewish rabbis. We need to teach our children the value of money. A lot of times people think we have money growing on trees in our backyard. The reason people have money is because they work for it and they save it. They don't spend it wastefully. Dave Ramsey has a plan, a financial plan that's practical. I wish I knew it a long time ago.
Me too.
His one is you give God 10%, you save 10%, and you live on 80%. And then you get $1,000 into your emergency fund that you have a cushion of $1,000. You get rid of all your credit cards, don't use credit, and just some practical things. We need to teach the value of money. That's so important. The other is dads need to give their children healthy attitudes towards sex. And here's some girls that are 13 years old, 14 years old, and they are being led in bondage to their wedding. They're going to be married to men they never knew, and they're just teenage kids. And this is the Islam way of doing things. When my daughter turned 16, I gave her a gold heart, and it was to be an emblem of her purity, and this little heart locket. And I took her on her first date on her 16th birthday. We were going to go horseback riding or we were going to go caving. And she chose caving, so we went a mile underground with our own flashlights at Laurel Caverns outside of Uniontown, Pennsylvania. What a way to enjoy your 16th birthday. I'm sorry. Later on, we had a birthday, and one of our friends worked at Chuck E. Cheese. He gave me a big old pile of slugs, you know, those tokens for Chuck E. Cheese. And we had a pizza at Chuck E. Cheese, and she was what, 22 now or 23? But we celebrated her birthday at Chuck E. Cheese.
Aw.
You know, and eating Chuck E. Cheese pizza, which isn't the greatest pizza in the world, but the games are fun. But this is the way, you know, Dad had his first date with his daughter. We didn't let our kids date until they were 16. We knew those that were dating at 12 were married at 16. Those are these 16 get married when they're a little older. How old was she when she finally got married, Mama? Probably around 22. I was married at 19. I didn't know any better. I didn't have anybody tell me any better. Dad died when I was 14, so I didn't have Dad to tell me, you don't get married at 19. You know, it's not going to work out. We celebrated our 47th wedding anniversary June 3rd in Jamaica. And I used to catch it from my friends that always say, well, Sister Sandy is down in Florida minding the monument store, and you're down in Jamaica teaching in the college. Now that happens to be your anniversary. Don't you love your wife or not?
Aw.
Well, yeah, what we do, we either go and celebrate our anniversary the week before our anniversary, the week after our anniversary.
Exactly.
That wasn't going to stop us from eating down at Red Lobster or eating down at that Italian restaurant place. What's that place you like the best? Olive Gardens. That's her place. Olive Garden. And I always like saw on a steak. We saw it on the steak this anniversary. We went over to that little place over in Bartow, and we had a steak down there. But we kind of enjoyed that. But the attitude, I know when my daughter finally was married, she says, well, I gave my husband my gold heart. Showed that it was her purity that she gave to her husband. And that was a symbol of having a healthy attitude towards sex. The main area is, the main reason why a daughter needs a dad is to show her that not all boys are like the ones who hurt her. We need to also look at life understandably from their point of view. I've had fun with this one. I mean, somebody threw these at me and says, boy, this works in pretty good. I got to make this thing work. And we say, we'll make it work.
Let's see what you think.
But
of
a
that.
big criticism children have is that parents don't give them the benefit of the doubt. The parents are so critical. They don't give them a kid's point of view. And the kids can be totally honest, and they say, you're a liar, you're going to get a whooping, or you're going to get time out in your room. But one thing I've seen as far as modern day, we are going to send you to your room without your supper. Okay, now they can call child welfare services because you've deprived me of food, so I'm going to sue you or have you put in jail. Number two, you send a kid to their room now. They got Wii, they got video games, they got cell phone, they got flat screen TV, they got this, they got that. So what kind of punishment is it sending them to their room in playland and playtime? In the old days, whenever a child was disruptive in class, they'd get 1 or 2 smacks, or maybe 3 from the principal. And I got a couple smacks from the principal for having a fight on the school bus with a couple of guys, and we were scared to death, thought he was going to throw us off the school bus for the rest of our life. And nowadays, instead of a swat on the behind, they suspend the kid 3 days or 2 weeks from school. So they go up to their room and play their Wiis and their games and their flat screens and their video stuff. What a punishment that is. I mean, it's just kind of to send the kid to playland. They call this discipline. Anyway, we need to look at life understandably from the point of view of our children. Dad, a son's first hero and a daughter's first love.
Amen.
These are some thoughts we've addressed as far as on fathers, and of course we know as far as fathers being fathers. Father is one who growls when he feels good and laughs when he's scared half to death. This is my tribute to the dads, to help dads be better dads, granddads be better granddads, and great-granddads be better great-granddads. Yes,